Hey, I just wanted to take a second to tell you about my latest podcast discovery.
He is a
Fire
friend and an
Breathing
inspiration to
Kittens
anyone
is
who I
an
think who's
actual
ever
play
played the guitar
one-shot
or tried to
podcast
write
that plays
poetry. Would you
various
please welcome Gordon
tabletop
Lightfoot?
role-playing games with a season-long plot. Because there's a beginning and an end to each week's story, you can start at any episode.
Where the road runs down by the butternut
Every week
grove
has a
to
different
Old
combination
Bill
of
Skinner's
four
stream.
from the same
Do
rotating
tell at
cast
the
of
noonday
people.
bell.
Join
It's time for a
fire-breathing
summertime
kittens as they
dream.
solve detective
This is
mysteries,
Carefree
attempt
Highway
comedic
Revisited, the
banter,
show that
and enjoy
celebrates
friendship.
the work of
That's
Gordon
Fire
Lightfoot
Breathing
song
Kittens
by song,
podcast.
with
Check
all
it out.
episodes free at lightfootpodcast.com. I'm your host, Mike Messner, and along with me today is a fellow Lightfoot fan making her, my goodness, 9th appearance on the show, Deb Radwan. Deb, welcome back to Carefree Highway Revisited.
Thank you. I can't believe it's been 9. Crazy.
Well, yeah, you were the very first guest, and then the trend continues. And Adele Chalifu, I know, is very jealous because she wants to be on more, but you hold the trophy right now. So what's new and exciting with you? We haven't seen you for about 10 months. So in 30 seconds or less, tell us the news with you.
Well, I have to tell you, if you don't mind a shameless plug, I have 10 tunes out on all streaming platforms. So iTunes, Pandora, whatever your listening pleasure is. A friend of mine that I met on the Lightfoot page asked me if I'd ever written any songs. And I told him that I hadn't written music, but I'd written lyrics. And he said, send it to me and let me see what I can do. And he put together the melodies and the vocals with the help of a computer. And I got 10 tunes out there.
And this is under your name, Deb Radwan?
Yes, Deborah Radwan.
Okay. So listeners, please check that out on Pandora, on Apple Music, on Spotify, wherever you get your listening matter. You won't be disappointed. I think you will really enjoy her words and the music that's been added to them. I think it's going to be a really exciting.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. And the next time you're on, maybe we'll get a clip from one of your songs in there if it's particularly appropriate for Lightfoot.
Yeah. Right.
So today we're talking about Summertime Dream, which is from the album of the same name. It came out in 1976. I want to know, why did you want to talk about that today?
Well, I have a couple reasons. The biggest is that I just like the way it makes me feel. Gordon has a few songs that deal with his childhood home, the area around Aurelia, growing up, and it's just a feel-good song, and it makes me feel young and lithe. I like the beat, I like the words, I like the tempo, everything about it.
That's a good reason. Do you have a special anecdote or something personal about what it means to you or how it's affected your life? Or is it just really just a good, solid, feel-good tune?
Well, there's a few things. Maybe it'll make more sense later. It has to do with the noonday bell.
All right. Well, then we'll wait until we get to that part of the lyrics.
Okay.
I think for me, most of all, just like you said, it's fun to listen to. But I think another thing, and me doing probably over-analysis on this, is that it has some resonance with some other songs that he's recorded. So in that sense, some of his music is coming full circle with this song. Although if I didn't have that lyrical connection, or if I didn't have the history with Lightfoot that I do, just to listen to the song would be enough to make me enjoy it without having to think about all the different connections. Now, you mentioned the noonday bell. Would you want to listen to this song at noon any place, or is there a different setting? Or
Anytime. And any time that I can sing with it is good. In a car is usually my favorite place to crank it up. The song to me sounds like there's a little influence from his barbershop quartet days. Just the tempo and the harmonies. I just think it's so much fun.
Well, he has that sensibility, the harmony. Of course, he had a musical education. The thing that always amazes me is that Gordon's not known for duetting with very many people. And so I sometimes wonder, wouldn't it have been kind of fun if he brought in a guest vocalist more often than he did? I mean, he did it like most artists, but it wasn't something that he was known for. Okay, here's a Gordon Lightfoot album featuring Kathy Smith or featuring Linda Ronstadt or anything like that. So that was just something that I thought about. For me, it would have to be a warm spring or summer day around noon, but it would have to be not on a farm, but not in a city either. It has to be out in, let's call it the bucolic suburbs, where you have technology and everything, but you have a whole lot of nature. There's a lot of trees. There's a lot of grass. There's a lot of mountains. Very similar to the place where my wife and I got married, which is Woodside, California. I'll come back to some other references to that a little bit later. So Gordon said this about Summertime Dream. He said, and I'm quoting directly, "It's all about working hard, not necessarily about being a musician, but work in general. A lot of my songs are about love and a lot are about work. This is one of the latter. I agree with Khalil Gibran very strongly on this one. If you have a job and someone who loves you, you've got it made," unquote. So that was him talking about the song, but I have not been able to discern anything about how the song got written, what the circumstances were, what the causation was. I just know that he sort of showed up for the follow-up to Sundown, and this song was there. Yeah. Do you have any other angle on how the song got written?
Well, I think Gord wrote several songs about the area around his home. And in this, it makes a reference to Bill Skinner's stream. And there actually was a real Bill Skinner from his childhood.
Oh.
And the stream, there was a stream and a farm near Sparrow Lake, just north of Toronto, Ontario, on the outskirts of Orillia. There was a William Philip Skinner. He died in 1945, but the farm stayed in the Skinner family until the mid-50s. So he would have been familiar with that area and Bill Skinner stream. So I think it's just a feel good about home. I kind of think of it in the same category as Bend in the Water. Summer nights, out with friends, frolicking. You hear the crickets and the pollen is flying in the air and there's water. And I think it was just a reference to some of his childhood memories. He did that one video where he talks about how wonderful it was living in Orillia and growing up there. And I think those memories just stayed with him all his life and touched some of his music. Pussy Willow's Cattails, those same kind of images. So different kind of song, but same kind of images.
Someone has said that this really is the polar opposite of the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Yeah. And they're both on the same record, of course, but this is maybe literally and maybe figuratively the absolute flip side of that song. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I was a little surprised. I read those comments in the liner notes, and I was a little surprised that he said this is a song about working hard, because to me, the only part of that song about working hard is waiting for that noonday bell to hit. I don't really think of it as a song of working. I think of it as a song of playing.
Yeah. So do I. Yeah. And I'm going to get into why I think about that as we're going along, because this is not a song about, this is not Boss Man. This is not even Cotton Jenny. This is a song about enjoying the weather and enjoying the changing of the seasons. Right. And if I'm not careful, I'm going to start quoting, "We had seasons in the sun," but that's a different songwriter.
You're listening to Carefree Highway Revisited. We'll be right back after a word from a podcast partner or two.
Radio is so much different than it was in the 80s. We had it all. The music, the movies, the DJs, and morning shows. Back to the 80s Radio is a show from the 80s in podcast form. We bring the memories from that awesome decade back. Join Toscano and Chang every Friday as they take you on a ride back in time, sharing their experiences and laughs. Stop on by and discover some of the wacky things this crazy duo comes up with. They talk about it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly of the greatest decade. Don't miss the greatest 80s podcast in the world. Back to the 80s Radio.
Is that song really a cover? What instrument are they playing there? What do those crazy lyrics mean? If you're the kind of person who thinks about stuff like that, you're in luck, because I've got just the podcast for you. How Good It Is chooses a single song each episode and takes a dive into the story behind the song and the artist who made it famous. I'm Claude Call. You can find me in your favorite podcast software or just point your browser to howgooditis.com.
How good it is.
So let's talk about the lyrics a little bit. And you really enlightened me on some of the references because I couldn't find the same ones that you had talked about. Where the road runs down by the butternut grove, there is a actual campground in Ontario called Christie Lake. And there is a portion of that that is called Butternut Grove. So it's possible that Gord had been there. I tend to think that the reference you made is a little closer to the mark because Christie Lake is 2.5 hours away from Orillia, and it's almost across the border into the States. But who knows? Maybe he'd been to both of them. It
could be an amalgamation of memories.
Could very well be. To old Bill Skinner stream, and you know far more about it than I do. The only Bill Skinner that I could come up with in my research was an Olympic javelin thrower from the United States. And I kind of doubt that Gordon was thinking about a guy who threw javelin for another country when he was writing this song. Do tell at the noonday bell. Now, I want to hear, because this is the part that I think you said resonated with you. But the thing that I love about this is that this is the height of the day. There's nothing hidden about this. In some sense, it's the antithesis of Softly, where, you know, she comes in the night, or Affair on 8th Avenue, where they're trying to keep this secret because affairs are not meant to be out in the open anyway. But this is, I'm not afraid, I'm not ashamed, I'm not abashed of this. I'm going to enjoy whatever this is. This doesn't have the same kind of sexual overtones as those other two songs, but it's blatant. I can't think of a better word. Do tell at the noonday bell. You got to tell us about that.
Well, it's just an anecdote. So I used to work for a bank and I used to do branch audits. And there's a branch in Los Banos, California, which is in the middle central valley of California, little small town. So there I am doing my audit. And all of a sudden I hear this noonday bell. Okay. And I said, what is that? And they said, oh, that's the factory. That's lunchtime. It's the noonday bell for lunch. And all I could think about was this song. And I'm thinking, where is there a stream that they're running to? You know, it just really brought this part of the song to life for me. This little small town, lunchtime, the factory bell goes off, everything stops. As soon as I was told that, I thought, oh my gosh, this is Summertime Dream.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I know Los Banos kind of well. I don't know if there is a stream anywhere. There is a creek and there is a reservoir right near Los Banos. And I can remember being there when I was about 11 years old when I was in the Boy Scouts. And my troop put out a wildfire there at the reservoir. Oh, wow. And so that was pretty profound, you know, that we were able to do that. That's something you never forget. It's time for a summertime dream in a lunch pail town in a one-horse way. Okay, so a lunch pail town means it's a working class area. It's populated by workers, probably predominantly guys who are bringing their lunch. Blue collar, bringing their lunch pail, literally bringing their lunch pail. It has a mill or maybe a factory, but I'd like to think that it's a mill. But I couldn't help but think it does remind me of Cotton Jenny. I mean, this idea that you're going down, you're working someplace, it's probably not the most intellectually stimulating work in the world. And then you punch a clock and you go home. So there's a setting there that I don't know if Gord ever had the feeling of working or the experience of working in a mill or a factory, but he certainly sang about it quite a bit.
Right. And I think he also, from that area, had a lot of experience with miners. And it may not be a factory, but I think it was the same kind of blue collar worker. You take your lunch with you. There's no bell going off at noon, but it's that same kind of work ethic.
Yeah, well said. You can live like a king and queen. And I think what he may be saying is one of two things. Either you're going to be very content with not very much, or things there are extremely affordable. Things are very, very inexpensive. So I tend to think it's probably the former, that if you have food on the table and a roof over your head, and as he said earlier, okay, somebody who loves you and a job, then you've got it made.
Right. Yeah, and I think that with all the references to Bill Skinner's stream and running away from work and the summertime dream aspects, that it's summertime, I think you can feel very rich with just those things around you. The stream and getting away and the cool of the water and playing, and you can live like a king and queen. And those natural gifts are going to make you feel like $1 million.
Totally. And I think we probably cracked the whole essence of the song right there, with the setting that he's doing. Let's steal away in the noonday sun. It's time for a summertime dream. Now, that's almost a contradiction, because when I think of stealing away, and there was actually a song in the 70s, I think, why don't we steal away into the night? You think about kind of being surreptitious, something you do, it's kind of sneaky. Under cover of darkness. You don't want anybody to know. Stealing away. Even the word store, stealing, okay, which is something that's illicit or forbidden or something like that. Can you steal away in the noonday sun?
Yeah, I think you can. If you got a little bit of time for lunch, and rather than going down and sitting at the lunch tables with the other guys, you run over to the creek to jump in the water. I think it's that kind of a thing. Let's just escape from this for an hour.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get away from this place.
Yes.
Yeah. And go into nature, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Okay. So let's steal away on the noonday sun. And as long as we're back by 1 o'clock or whenever it is, we're supposed to punch the clock again. We're just going to be fine. Birds in all creation will be twittering in the trees, and down below's a pond, I know. You can swim in it if you please. And if this were more of a typical Lightfoot song, I would think he's got a lady with him and then they're going to go skinny dipping. I'm not getting that here, at least not at this point in the song, and not primarily. This is not a love song. It isn't even a lust song. It's just enjoying nature. So you can swim in it if you please. If you don't want to, that's perfectly fine. But it's there and it's another part of nature. If it wasn't, it would be a swimming pool. As it is, it's a pond.
I have to admit, I've always in my mind thought of a man and a woman, not a sexual scenario, just frolicking and splashing and in the cool and stealing kisses. And it's just fun.
Yeah, it's fun, but it's not necessarily carnal.
Yes, exactly.
So this is not, okay, we're going to go have a quickie or something. I just can't think of a better way to say it right now. And if you come around when the mill shuts down, you can see what chivalry means. Now, there's a few things to unpack here. When the mill shuts down, does that mean after hours? Because a minute ago, he was talking about noon. Yeah. And I don't know anything. I've never been in a paper mill or a lumber mill or something or anything like that. But I don't know of any mills that say, okay, it's noon, we're quitting for the day. What's going on here?
Well, if it's a factory, they would blow the horn and, at noon, everyone goes have lunch and come back. So I think it could be a scenario where it shuts down for the night. And when he talks about chivalry, I think it kind of goes back to that you can live like a king and queen. I'm going to treat you like royalty in that old chivalrous way. That's all I can really get out of it, is that I'm going to treat you like a queen, or you're going to feel like a queen.
It's kind of a loaded word in the 21st century because chivalry, the dictionary definitions, it's courteous behavior of men towards women. It's usually embodied, I'm going to open the door for a lady, or I'm going to put the coat over your shoulder, or I'm going to do something that I think a lot of women, when I was growing up, found very disempowering. I had a friend when I was in college. I tried to open the door for her as we were going into a church, and she punched me, not across the face, but she, as a way of saying, you sexist, blah, blah, blah. So I guess in this case, it's kind of a dated word, given the fact that we're here knee deep in the 21st century, and we've made a lot of progress with gender equality. But I think he can also say to whomever his audience is, you're going to feel like a queen on a throne. by the experience we're going to have, which is not me taking advantage of you. It's just us enjoying nature.
Right. I did Google, what could this mean? And I did come up with something. And it just says, chivalry means, let's steal away in the noonday sun, suggests a romantic, spontaneous, protective gesture. It implies a partner with devotion and special attention by escaping together for a private, idyllic moment, acting like a knight in the modern context. It's a song of celebration of simple, romantic pleasures in the summertime. And it's the phrase portrays chivalry not just as an old-fashioned etiquette, but as a deliberate act of devotion, escaping daily life to be with someone you care about. And since Gordon did make that comment about if you have a job and a loved one, I do think there is some inherent female with him at some point in the song.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to say she's incidental, but she's not the focus of the song so much.
I would agree.
It's about nature.
Yeah.
And that is the essence of the lyrics right there. I mean, it's a fairly short song, but it's just a delight to listen to.
It's wonderful.
You're listening to Carefree Highway Revisited. We'll be right back after a word from a podcast partner or two. Hey, I just wanted to take a second to tell you about my latest podcast discovery. Fire Breathing Kittens is an actual play one-shot podcast that plays various tabletop role-playing games with a season-long plot. Because there's a beginning and an end to each week's story, you can start at any episode. Yeah, you won't miss a thing. Every week has a different combination of 4 from the same rotating cast of people. Join Fire-Breathing Kittens as they solve detective mysteries, attempt comedic banter, and enjoy friendship. That's Fire-Breathing Kittens podcast. Check it out. 1 minute, you're a teacher preparing for the new school year. The next, you're transported to a fantastical realm shrouded in forgotten magic. The creatures around you think you're a long-vanished mage. You have no technology. You have no memory of how you got here, and no idea how to get home. All you have is misplaced magic. Haladar, the Last Surveyor, is the new fantasy novel by acclaimed author Rob Perrier. Available now on Amazon.com and robperrier.com.
Well, the song was, of course, on Summertime Dream, which was the record that came out in 1976. It was not released as a single, and I don't think it was released as a B-side. The album did get to number 1 in Canada. Surprise, surprise. It got to number 12 in the US on the Billboard chart. It got to 63 in Australia. I can't find anything about the UK charts. That's the ongoing mystery of why Gordon didn't do better in the UK. It was the 3rd song on side 2. It was the 9th song on the record. And the album, I think numerically, was his most successful studio album.
Yes, it was.
In the sense that it sold the most.
Primarily because of the rack.
Yeah, I think you're right. And there was at least one other single. It might have been Race Among the Ruins. I got to tell you, my favorite part of the song is very unusual for me because I don't really associate Gordon with electric guitars. I mean, I associated him with that 12 string. As a matter of fact, that was the reason I didn't listen to Endless Wire for quite a while, because I thought, okay, he's really stepped outside of himself and I don't like this. And of course, I came back to it and I love it now. But my favorite part of this song is Terry Clements' electric guitar solo. That and the acoustic counterpart, they were both really, really nice. And it didn't try to make the song into something it wasn't. There are a handful of Gordon's songs that if he had just stayed acoustic, it would have been absolutely fine. But I think he was trying too hard to bring in an electric element, and it kind of stretching the song between 2 categories or between 2 genres, and it didn't necessarily work. In this case, I think it worked really well. What was your favorite musical part of the song?
You know, I don't know that I have a favorite musical part because I love it all. The one thing I have noted just from when I sing it in the car, you've got to really have your lungs full of oxygen because of his smoking and that kind of thing. I wonder if that's why he didn't perform it as often, because there are parts in that song where you're holding your breath a long time to get through it, because it's a relatively fast-paced song that always sticks with me when I'm singing it. But I love the whole thing. I love the little bit of harmonies and the pace of it and the imagery, and his voice is great, and love it.
I think if there were a runner-up for me, it would be the sort of counterpoint towards the end where he's singing "Time for a Summertime," kind of in between. And although I can see why somebody might think, okay, that's going to get tiresome after a while, but I'm glad he kept it at the end, because I thought that was kind of innovative of him to do that. The people who played on this, it's just the core group that surrounded everything that he did in the mid-70s. Terry on lead acoustic and electric guitars, Pee Wee on pedal steel, Rick on bass, and Barry Keane on drums and percussion. Jim Gordon did play on one other track. But as you said, the song wasn't played that often in concert, and that may have been because of his smoking. That may have been many other things. But when I went on to setlist.fm, I found some really cool relevances to my own life. The very first time Gord ever played this was at the Montreux Jazz Festival in Montreux, Switzerland on June 26, 1976. And I have actually performed on that same stage where he was. Yeah, not at the Jazz Festival. It was at the Choral Festival in the same building, the same stage. I was in the same green room. And I didn't realize that until I did research for this. And I thought, wow, I have followed in the shadows of giants here. And then the other thing was that the last time he played it was at the Fox Theater in Detroit on April 21st, 2001. And that was my wedding day.
Oh, wow.
So I had no idea, of course. And my wife had not heard the song until last night. And so I played it for her, and she was kind of swinging back and forth to the song. So she really enjoyed that. Did he play it in any concert that you saw?
I can't remember specifically, but I saw him 77 times. So I'm sure that he did when the album came out, but I don't remember any specific performances. I'm sure he did when it came out.
One more note about performances, although I don't know if this was mentioned on Setlist. He played it on Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
He was a guest on May 22nd, 1976. I don't know exactly when Summertime Dream came out, but this was about that time. And it was the same show where John Belushi, dressed as a samurai, came out with a wire cutter and cut the strings to Gord's 12-string, which to me is right on the edge of sacrilege. I mean, to do that. But, you know, that was the kind of guy that John Belushi was. Right. And I'm not going to get into the connection with Kathy Smith, although it's there. But that was historic in a whole bunch of ways, that particular performance.
He did sing it on that show. That was the first season of Saturday Night Live.
Yes, it was, because it began in the fall of 75.
He sang that song and Spanish Moss.
Yes, he did. I've only found one professional or label-related cover of it, and that was by Mac Wiseman, who did an album in the mid-70s, said Mac Wiseman Sings Lightfoot. There haven't been any other covers, and honestly, running ahead of myself just a little bit, I'm okay with that. I don't think anybody else needs to do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a little bit of a purist on this. I like the way he does it, and I don't want anyone else to do it.
Well, that's probably a good place for us to duck out of here. But Deb, I wanted to thank you again for taking the time at the end of the week to talk to me about a song that is just so much fun to listen to.
It is.
And the next time you'll be hitting double digits in appearances on Carefree Highway Revisited. So wanted to say congratulations and thank you for being here. And I hope I can get you on the show again
I've loved it. And I encourage anyone who has a favorite song that hasn't been done to contact you and to talk about it, because it's so much fun.
Well, the next episode of Carefree Highway Revisited will feature my guest Martin Brandt, who was one of the first guests I ever had. He was on talking about the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, by the way. And he and I will be talking about The House You Live In, which is also from the Summertime Dream album. And that episode will be coming out in March of 2026.
You can find all our episodes on www.lightfootpodcast.com. And I hope you'll tell someone about the show and give it a positive review wherever you get your listening matter. Until we meet again, this is Mike Messner reminding you, run for the roses, but don't forget to stop and smell them. We'll see you next time along the Carefree Highway.